We are back here in Brussels and heading into Game 3 of Fnatic versus the KOO Tigers with a spot in the finals hanging in the balance. Now, Fnatic's backs are against the wall, and they have to win every game from here on out if they want to make that move. But I want to talk about someone who's going to do everything in his power to stop them from moving on. Smeb. We didn't talk about him in the postgame, but that guy avoiding that early tower dive and his 1v1 play, especially on this Fiora, has just been tremendous throughout the tournament.
I mean, his Riven play was spectacular as well, but coming into this is the main thing that I was like, it's like 50-50, but the thing that really tipped my prediction over the edge was thinking about Smeb versus Huni in this matchup. And Smeb has just been so dominant to this point in this series. And we've seen him blind pick Riven. Apparently Fnatic doesn't have an answer. Now we've seen Huni play Riven. Seems like the KOO Tigers and Smeb do have an answer in Fiora. So where do you go from here?
It's a good question. It's definitely a good question, and that's where we can jump into Champion Select here. Again, back onto the blue side for Fnatic, so they have a little bit of room to play with when it comes to Champion Select. I feel it's time to turn our heads towards Daylor and the coaching staff and say, what are you going to do to set your team up, your players up in the right place to make the right plays in the game and then come out with a victory?
Well, I mean, the game one, we saw them all in on the early game, taking that Ignite. Game two, they slowed the pace down, but they found themselves at a mid-game deficit. I do think Fnatic did a great job of coming back in an extraordinarily difficult situation, and the KOO Tigers didn't close it out effectively. So now it's like, which one are they going to go for next?
I think Brawley made a great point in our post-game of our last match there, that Fnatic just need to get a cohesive team composition.
Yep.
They picked two champions that are great at kiting with the Azir and the Ashe, but then I mean, you went for the all-in, so you can't have the best of both worlds because then you will get torn apart, especially against a pick like Tahm Kench. Additionally, maybe an early prior on Tahm Kench will definitely be there for Fnatic too, and just get a team composition with an identity, but that isn't as early game oriented. I liked what they brought game one, going full on the early game, but I would still like to see at least 2 teleports, 2 side stones, and then a composition with a clear identity that Fnatic then can play around its strengths.
I think Fnatic got a more well-rounded comp aside from the Riven pick. I agree. I think the Riven pick for them was they got to play their ego pick. They got to try the 1v1 top. They tried to camp the top, try to get that ahead. And now it didn't work. Now they can reassured, like, we can't win this 1v1 top. This matchup isn't the way we thought. Now we need to go back to picking top laners for comps. And this is their option to go back to that.
And I'm pretty sure we saw Yellowstar ran Ignite last game. That should have been the exhaust, especially against that composition. If you can actually dive into the backline with the Yellowstar, against these lineups that KOO is running, you need the exhaust.
Well, we have our ideas what we want to see, but one thing is for certain, it is do or die for Fnatic here. Right now, we're going to head over to the caster booth for the call.
Thank you very much, Dash. 2-0 in favor of the KOO Tigers. Fnatic back on blue side. Last time around, KOO banned out GP Maud and Elise. Are we expecting that to stay the same?
Yeah, why change it if you're the KOO Tigers at the moment? It's more on Fnatic. If they want to leave a Tahm Kench open and first pick it, and then ban Rek'Sai themselves, I don't see that happening. I think they will value getting that early jungle pick for Reignover. But then do a mix. You don't have to do Rek'Sai, LeBlanc with Ignite and like all in on the early game. You can do Rek'Sai and like Azir again or Victor in the mid lane, a control mage with teleport, and you get early game power and you get some late game power at the same time.
I still think Fnatic should go in for the early game. I think their game one strategy was sound. I think if they execute that better, they can try to pull their way back in this series because KOO has no need to change their play style, and I think Fnatic should try and play that nearly winning game again.
And that's why I like Azir, especially for February, because it's one of the champs where he can win that mid lane and push it in and be aggressive while still have more team fighting power later on. But obviously LeBlanc was left open by the KOO Tigers in the first game because of Gangplank, Mordekaiser, and the Elise ban. But I'm still expecting Fnatic to go for Rek'Sai as the first pick. We see exactly the same bans come in so far for both teams. Lulu would come next for Fnatic, and then Elise, if it is as in game one.
Nothing changed yet. Let's see if Fnatic agree and they want to go for that early to mid-game team fight. Where they were up against it, against Origin in the Summer Split Finals, they ran Rumble and Emmy for similar style. Game ended up going long, but it was that play that got them there. Instead of banning Lulu, they take out FLICKR.
Maybe trying to tell KOO Tigers, you need to ban Lulu now and we get Elise first pick. But I think KOO Tigers can still just ban the Elise and first pick Fnatic first pick Rek'Sai and then get Lulu themselves.
This is super tricky because now they need to pick between the Rek'Sai or the Lulu. That's a really high valuation they put on that Veigar.
But it does tell me somewhat they want to play Azir again. And they just don't want to risk the same thing happening in the late game or control mage in the mid lane, and they don't want to risk having to match the scaling of a Veigar. So they value that above getting or banning away the Lulu. We might also see them do something completely different, and they just want to avoid what KOO can do in the late game on this champion, because they have made mistakes, Fnatic in the early game, which has allowed KOO Tigers to get to late game, which means this FLICKR pick, even if shut down early on, will activate at some point during the game and become super, super powerful.
Now, Lulu has been played once by the KOO Tigers this tournament, by Kuro, and it was a loss. We need to see how they handle themselves and what Fnatic will run into it. Currently, the hover is on the TF. We know that Kalista is still up and available, but Fnatic have not played that yet. Kanan's up too.
Kanan is up too. I mean, you can do a full global comp here. You have Rek'Sai already. Twisted Fate, you don't have to pick it now though, the way I see it for Fnatic. Because if KOO Tigers wants to try and skirmish you early on with Smep up in the top lane, you bring 2, 3, 4 teleports and you say, hey, you're not alone now. It's not a 1v1 anymore. But
yeah. Fnatic just goes with the early Orianna pick though, which if you're going to pick Orianna, I like picking it in this context. However, coming into this series, the only 2 games Fnatic had lost had been Febiven on Orianna. It's not a surefire playmaker. It is more of a late game champion, and it is good in the lane at least. So Fnatic is definitely keeping their options open, if more than anything here.
It's one of these small counter picks into a Lulu. In the laning phase, you will win that as the Orianna. But it is a bit what we talked about, how by banning FLICKR, it seemed like Fnatic want to try and get a scaling mage in the mid lane, just not want to deal with FLICKR's scaling as well. So ban him away, so they might run a composition now, a wombo combo composition against this Lulu and say, okay, you can only ulti 1 guy. If we get 2 or 3 with our AoE comp, the Lulu ulti will do very little. But obviously you have to then execute it perfectly.
All right, we'll see if Febiven can make that work and how well Yellowstar is going to perform on this Thresh. First time here at Worlds 2015. Thresh has somewhat fallen by the wayside as a go-to support. We did see last week KT versus KOO. And we'll see what Yellow can do with it today. Lee Sin locked in for Hojin, formerly known as Lee, and Prey going to his Ashe once more.
This is actually the jungle pick I expected, not the Zac. In most of these games, Hojin did get some good late game team fights with the Zac, but this is much more his style. It's not a good matchup against the Rek'Sai, but it's probably better than Zac as far as early game matchups,
for sure.
because Lee Sin is a good early game champion. I really like those 2 picks from KOO. They're also forcing Fnatic into some difficult choices because the Ashe arrows can be game-changing.
Yeah, KOO Tigers is running with a lot of pick potential here. Lee Sin single out a guy, Ashe arrow single out a guy. Alistar is fantastic at diving, again, catching out people. So KOO Tigers with a lot of pick potential on their side. So far, they're not running a whole lot of damage.
And a big change in style for Hojin. Both of his Zac games previously, the pre-6 ganks almost non-existent. Now, gonna have the option to surprise Fnatic. They will go blind pick Riven.
I want to see Lissandra soon. Someone has to play Lissandra top into like Fiora or Riven, but nobody's done it so far. Not sure Smith needs to.
I think we're gonna have to wait for Marin to play it in the finals. It's one of his most played champions in solo queue, and both these guys are Riven players, or on Smeb's case, a Fiora player.
Smeb can just go Fiora and take the
Doesn't
same
seem like
matchup.
Fiora is in Huni's champion pool here. Could end up costing them a whole bunch. Or does Smeb go and play the same pick into Huni? So Huni played into Smeb.
Let's think back to game 1, because what happened in this matchup, it was very even early, but as soon as Huni got a bit of armor picked up for that Frozen Heart as the first item, there was no trades going on anymore. He could just push out the wave all the time and look for flanks. He didn't have to worry about the Riven trying to all in him. So Smeb is going to do exactly the same. Again, it's a composition with so much pick potential coming in here. If Fnatic is mispositioned, that's an arrow in your face, Lee Sin kicks you back and smack.
And I think the Hecarim is a reliable counter pick to the Riven. It is a favorable matchup later on in the game, whereas the Fiora is still a skill matchup that Smeb won, but they're not necessarily taking risks here. Hojin on a comfortable champion, Kuro had to do the Lulu denial. These are actually much different team compositions that we did see in game 1, so maybe we see a completely unique game here.
And we got to see Fnatic take the best of both worlds. Rek'Sai first pick, so you have that early game jungler. I still think this is a lot more mixed compared to what we saw before. They have a control mage who can scale in the mid lane, and you have an early game jungler, compared to before, where they were in a situation where they had to pick a Skarner because Rek'Sai and Elise were banned away. And they're like, okay, how do we get early pressure? Skarner? Nope, that's not gonna work. So now they have a bit of everything.
Okay. And we need to see how they make use of all of their different tools, because this could be the last game from a European team on European soil. Ladies and gentlemen of Brussels, Let your votes be known on Twitter and with your cheers. Will Fnatic be able to pick up any games at all in this best-of-5 semi-final? Or will KOO show the Korean dominance and have our first ever all-Korean final at the World Championships? It's game 3 with Fnatic on the blue side, fighting to stay alive. And that hill has become incredibly challenging.
Fnatic has to win 3 games in a row, but with the closeness of the first 2, it is a definite possibility. What we have to keep in mind, though, is if this game starts early for the KOO Tigers in a favorable fashion, if they get first blood, if they start up a couple thousand gold, I think the entire series is over. I do not think mentally a team can come back from that type of start after the agonizing way they were defeated in the first 2 matches.
Also not running double teleport on the side of Fnatic. FiBeN once again is going all in on this laning phase. Orianna does do really well into Lulu, so he's looking to once again push Koro into his own tower and open up for Reignover to be more aggressive, invade into the enemy jungle, take one-on-ones, 2v2s in there, use that Riven as well for extra damage in the early game. So Fnatic will have tools to play around the early game, but we know what happens late game when you're down a teleport.
Well, KOO Tigers have already shown that their quarterfinal form of falling behind and then bouncing back is something they can do comfortably. Their group stage form was significantly more impressive in the early game, securing a ton of kills and punishing both Pain and CLG. Let's see if Hojin with Prey and Smeb can again get that strong early and maybe snuff out any hope of Fnatic pulling a reverse sweep.
Yeah, I think absolutely with Lulu and Ashe, they can still have a decent late game plan, but this is more KOO Tigers composition that'll take some risks early. This is more of the group stage style of KOO, where maybe they feel comfortable enough to make plays. Just wait for the first time Fnatic groups and see if Prey lands the Ashe arrow that starts the cascade.
Prey is probably the best Ashe player in Korea. He was one of the first guys to really bring it out again during the playoffs and so on. He's very known for having fantastic hawk shots, and then also, of course, that arrow landing at the correct target. And KOO Tigers really looking a little more, they're going to spike more in the mid game with what they're running here in this game.
Potentially final match of the series. FiBeN and Kuro going toe-to-toe. We are going to see the head-to-head matchup up top as well. Huni and Smeb settling in. And both duos going toe. So we'll see what Huni can do. He ran the Hecarim first, but it's coming off way worse for wear. Smeb just throws Spirit of Dread and laughs in his face.
Yeah, and Hecarim also has Ignite, so he's up a combat summoner in this lane. You almost have to gank the Hecarim early, but if he's chunking the opponent laner like this, you can't do that either. Huni's hoping that he can bounce the wave off the turret here and then recall, but he's taken so much damage early, he's going to be in for a world of hurt.
Let's just remember Smeb is running Flask and 3 potions. So the fact he's winning early trades so easily is going to make it even worse for Huni, because he has no way now of sustaining himself. 3% life steal on a Dorn's Blade is absolutely nothing for him.
He's really trying hard, but he knows once Smeb hit level 3, he can get the E up with Ignite. It would be enough to kill Huni out of lane. That's why he's really delaying this recall. Early laning phase goes heavily to Smeb top lane.
So Smeb with a soft counter pick already in a good position. We'll see how early he can get that armor secured. Reckless and Yellow, they're pushing heavily in this bottom lane.
So, this Riven pick for Huni will most likely just be because it's a comfort pick for him. I don't see Fnatic necessarily go and camp the lane, because if you look at what they've done with the rest of their comp, you have a counter pick in mid that's going to push in to tower. Look where FiBeN is on the map now. Sivir against Ashe. Sivir can fast push the wave over and over, and Ashe cannot push it back. She can out-trade the Sivir, but that's very difficult to do when you have minions around you. So Fnatic have 2 lanes pushing on the bottom side of the map that will constantly push into tower. That's what Reignover is going to use to get into the jungle near that blue buff, take that control, and always chip away in these towers here for Fnatic. Play it fairly slow, honestly. You don't have to go for a crazy dive. Just keep pushing in waves on the bottom side. Huni just has to stay alive on the top lane.
You look at the speed in which Reignover cleared that jungle. No hesitation, full clear, and Sightstone. So more what we saw in the quarterfinals, where he had an average 6 minutes Sightstone. This one's 4.5 minutes Sightstone.
It's one of the things the analyst desk was saying they'd like to see a little bit more from Fnatic, the Sightstones. We're hoping for 2 TPs. We'll see if Reignover can make use of the vision provided. And Huni again, coming off worse for wear in that trade. Smeb just runs him down with a devastating charge and rampages.
You have to be so careful now because you're going Sidestone first on your Rek'Sai against a jungler who's going to go Warrior and Charm. So Hojin will have some more early game power with his longsword. And if Rek'Sai takes a risky gank on top side, you know Hojin likes to sit up there and wait.
You mean like this?
Like this, that could end very quickly in 2 kills for KOO Tigers.
So weird to be having the Riven here. It's the danger of the blind pick because now you have to play Riven into an unfavorable matchup. And that, Kobe loves to talk about it all the time. You have to gank for a Riven lane when you're on Riven's team or against Riven's team because that's where the jungle attention is going to be going. And that actually plays into KOO right here. So Huni needs to play defensively on Riven, which almost always leads to a large CS discrepancy in Riven's, not in Riven's favor.
Yeah, the only thing we might see happen for Fnatic is if they keep Reignover on top side, maybe force Hojin to stay there so there's no jungle pressure on the 2 lanes pushing for Fnatic, and they just let FebiVan and Reckless do the job on their own while you try and, bait attention on the top side. But we keep seeing these trades. Smeb is already going to get some early armor. He's going to get that Frozen Heart as his first item, and Huni doesn't really have that chance to all in.
No, not at all. 10 CS down already. Smeb's still got that Ignite and the Sustain. Huni's going to lose even more CS. So a Miracle TP play is what they're looking for. FebiVan throws down the Shockwave almost as soon as he unlocks it. Just trying to bully Kuro out. Got himself a 10 CS advantage. It's something, but it's not massive just yet.
So now with Reignover being around top side, getting 2 deep wards in to try and spot Hojin in the red jungle here, which is very nice. It did mean once he maybe had a small chance to gank the bottom lane, he obviously wasn't nearby because he's been making work on the other side of the map. Frey and Gorilla are overextending at the moment. You have Lantern, you have Flash for Yellow Star. There's a lot of ways to set up this gank. And I like the fact he's now sneaking down towards this gank. He can even go over the wall with his tunnel, and then he goes the opposite side towards the mid lane.
It's pretty smart of Reignover, though. He knows he doesn't actually have the combat effectiveness with Sidestone right now, and he's successfully and safely gotten 2 wards deep within the jungle of KOO. So at the very least, he's stopping Hojin from having early jungle presence, or so he hopes. Yellowstar with a very poor face check.
Oh, he's in so much trouble. Flash and Exhaust are available. Yellowstar manages to sidestep the Sonic Wave. Teleport started, then cancelled by Kuro. So they do get at least one of those summoners at the cost of their flash and heal.
Strange play from Yellowstar. I'm 100% sure they saw Hojin in the jungle with the wards just being placed from Reignover's side.
That was one of those things, well, if I check it in here, I am going to lose. So I should check it just to make sure that's not the case.
Because even if there's nobody there, what was going to happen? You would just walk up the river.
Yes. Very foolish play there, but he keeps his exhaust at least. I like the fact that he has exhaust, specifically against Hecarim.
But these small mistakes is exactly why KOO Tigers in the last 2 games have been able to always, even when it's really far behind, find a way back into the game. Because Fnatic would then make that little overextension or have that one bad call they made, and that's where KOO Tigers punish you every single time in the early game.
And it goes further than just that. In the quarterfinal matchup, KOO just kept showing ways they knew how to defend. They knew how to play on the back foot, and they've done that in their own region during the course of the summer split. I mean, this is the team that is looking the most likely to advance on to the championship finals. And every single time they show up, they find new ways to impress and new ways to look good on the Rift.
Although FebiVan does have that 21 CS advantage on Kuro. KOO, even with the catch, is still losing this early game by 400 gold, even with the counter pick in the top lane. So they're definite things not going well for KOO Tigers. Yet, as you say, Quickshot, they consistently find ways to win.
I still like this from Reignover, how he goes up not to gank, but just to place a ward. Now he finds Hojin as well.
He's gonna look for the knockup. Huni actually flashes over the wall. Dragon's Rage will buy some time. Reignover's holding on to his flash. Huni pulled the trigger very early. Look at the river. KOO has got support. Reignover and Huni, they've gone too far. Onslaught of Shadows sends him against the wall. Smeb is looking for Huni, looking for first blood. FebiVan does have Shockwave, but will not use it. Flash is available, and KOO Tigers, they secure the first kill.
Great roam by Gorilla to be there, and that's ultimately what salvaged the kill at the end. But honestly, there were so many small misplays by Fnatic in the approach of that gank. First off, Reignover didn't have to jump over the wall early because Hojin was going to walk around that bend, and then he could have followed with his tunnel. Secondly, he unburrowed early and didn't chain the CC with Huni, but with the Owls to roam up in the top lane, Fnatic at least cross-matched with the turret.
Yeah, that's what I like about the play here for Fnatic, is the fact that either it's 3 versus 3 and it's even because they forced Hojin away, or if another guy joins, being an 80 carry support or whatever, you take the bot tower. Because again, remember what Fnatic has done for the first 10 minutes. Constantly push the bot lane and the mid lane and chip away on the towers.
The idea of the play was great. Reignover preempted the Lee Sin invade. The execution of the play was extremely lackluster, and KOO out-executed once again. That's basically how KOO has been winning these games. I think strategically, Fnatic has had a lot of superior calls, but KOO has just been playing better in the moment again and again.
Let's see if Reckless can outplay Gorilla. Spell shields the headbutt, and Gorilla not going to be quick enough on that Pulverize, but gets the Summoner spell. And that means Reignover, Huni, and Reckless, or even Yellow, are flashless for the next few minutes.
In order for Reckless now to move further in this game, he's already taking his own bot lane tower. There's no value in him just constantly pushing the bot lane really at the moment. So he really wants to push out this wave and then swap the top lane and 2v1 the Hecarim. But because he just lost the flash, it becomes so much harder for him to do. And here's a dive.
Yellow Star's in trouble. He's been caught by the Crystal Arrow. The TP is going to bring some more play from Kuro. They get themselves a second kill. And maybe even the tower if they stick around for this next wave.
Now that was a good play by KOO. That's exactly what they want to do in that situation. They burned the early Summoner spell by Reckless. They made it even more dangerous for Yellow Star to stay under, and they abused their double teleport advantage.
Exactly. That's where, again, Fnatic can get punished for not running a teleport in the mid lane. Had Fabian had TP ready, had he had the Summoner at all, right here he would just have TP'd instant down to this bot lane tower, and this dive would never even have started. KOO Tigers are just saying, we can be 4 members against 3, we have an Alistar to dive, easy, let's go for it, and that's a kill.
And despite being down 30 CS in the mid lane, with Kuro's kill and assist, he's even on gold with Febiven. So he's using that teleport to keep himself very, very relevant.
I think you are in a winning lane matchup without the offensive Summoner on the side of Fnatic. So when we even heard Yellowstar say, oh, let's see what happens top.
All right, let's throw everything and a sink at Smeb. He's already chunked Huni down. The Flay comes out. Onslaught of Shadows.
Man.
Smeb's got one and he's not done. He's looking for Yellowstar and Reignover. Reignover unburrows the rest of KOO. Come in from the jungle. And ladies and gentlemen, if Huni wasn't tilted already, that may be the play that does it.
Smeb is putting his stamp on this series like he did in the quarterfinals as well. 1v3, and he turns it around. He was already in a winning matchup. He already hit stacked armor, yet they gank him with double physical damage and expect it to go well. That was a poor call by Fnatic, and we were wondering what would happen if they started behind in this game. How desperate would they become already being down 2-0? That was one of the worst decisions Fnatic has made all series.
Gonna cost them the top tower. Reckless was trying to shove in middle, but unable to secure the mid turret. All of a sudden, Fnatic are now 2,000 gold down, 3 kills down, an extra tower down, and the pressure continues to mount.
He had the right plan in the start. Reignover wouldn't gank, he would just get a side stone, place deep wards, make sure Riven could farm, make sure your laners were safe so they could keep pushing the waves. Play, it's slow. You even have that combat summoner in mid lane, so you're supposed to win it. Fabian is ahead in farm, so again, just wait it out. Take these towers. Instead, Fnatic, after giving up 1 kill, instantly says, okay, let's go for another fight. Now suddenly we need to do something, otherwise we're gonna fall behind. And that's where KOO Tigers can punish them completely.
Oh, you got a flash sideways, Febiven. He doesn't get away from the arrow. And an easy pickup for KOO. Now they've even got uncontested time towards this middle lane.
You gotta hand it to KOO Tigers, though. They are absolutely recognizing where Fnatic is at, and they are going for the aggressive plays. Prey with Ashe does this against everybody. Beautiful arrow from right outside of Fog. Flashes backwards instead of sideways. I don't think that's a play Febiven makes in game 1, but based on the circumstances of this match, he flashes straight backwards, KOO converts, gets their 4th kill.
Making it just look so, so easy. With the enchanted arrow from Prey, that library card continues to get stamped for Fnatic. And KOO are just now starting to strangle the life out of Fnatic. They do have wave clear in Orion and Sivir, so there is some comeback mechanics. But they cannot afford to keep falling prey to Prey as those Ashe arrows get flung out.
And again, they don't have a teleport. So KOO Tigers can say, say, okay, we're just gonna 1-3-1, push in every single lane. Whenever Fnatic sends someone to the bottom side to defend like they're doing now, they get
Right
killed in a Gorilla.
All of a sudden, Reckless is delivered into the hands of Kuro, but there's no damage to follow it up. KOO may have bitten off a little more than they can chew. Prey's in trouble. He gets away from the wind slash as the teleport's coming in here for Smith. He's now landed. Onslaught of Shadows is available. Hooney's on the front line. Not even needed. Smith throws the onslaught towards the tower.
Into the tower.
And Hooney's left for dead. Shockwave connects on Prey but doesn't find a kill. Top laners are down and Fnatic are able to at least go even after an over-aggressive play from KOO.
This was almost the best Fnatic could hope for. We saw it. Febiven was down on bottom lane to clear the wave that was pushed in by Koro, so KOO Tigers said, okay, now we have a numbers advantage, we can engage in the mid lane. We're still only 15 minutes in though, so diving between two towers, so now to be a little bit more than what the KOO Tigers could do, but in the end it's still 1-for-1.
I think KOO Tigers is trying to push the tempo a little bit with their Warrior Lee Sin, especially at this stage in the game, which is why you're seeing such an aggressive roam from Gorilla and the Lulu down already. They actually used the Lulu ultimate very early for Gorilla to overtank that turret, but then immediately have to turn on the retreat because Prey actually took turret aggro, so not a coordinated play, a rarity from KOO so far in this series. Smep teleports in defensively, and I actually like the heal from Reckless while the Onslaught of Shadows comes out to position and not get knocked backwards. I think that was very critical.
At the end though, Smep gets pulled into tower, goes down, but we're gonna see KOO Tigers try and do this again. Look at Lulu on the bottom side of the map. Fnatic is pinging and saying, okay, this might be our chance to rush in mid tower. To force at least the teleport from Koro. That's the best you can hope for if you are Fnatic. Force the TP, then back away, but then do it again in 2 minutes time when KOO Tigers cannot put up this 1-3-1 pressure. So Fnatic want to force a teleport right now to get that summoner away, but KOO Tigers, they know it, they're ready to fight.
Oh, Gorilla's gone in and found 3. The arrow connects onto Reckless and he's dead. He gets kicked backwards. Gorilla's the one with the kill credit. We just see Hooney take the lantern to safety. Tower will give Fnatic some breathing room. But Prey again finding the enchanted crystal arrow. Reckless had flash. Smith may a little bit out of position. Hooney and Yellowstar trying to jump him down, but Gorilla comes forward. The Shockwave finds 4. There's simply not enough ability power. Yellowstar and Rainover, like lambs to the slaughter, they throw themselves at the wall and come away wanting.
Yeah, trading a Thresh kill for an unnamed kill on the enemy side is not a good idea. Yellowstar really with a bit of a desperation play here, and I think this is another one. Fnatic desperately trying to turn this game around. Rainover's now in enemy territory without much backup.
No, he does have at least some protects and dissonances from Febiven. And that now puts Fnatic even further behind. 3,000 gold. KOO Tigers, they're showing up.
Yeah, they really are, especially in this game where they're making the Ashe plays work. This is why Ashe was banned against them so many times earlier on.
So we get once again this trade between them, but the only positive thing really for Fnatic with this fight, even though they're losing all these members and it's obviously not a great play, is now they have a bit of time where there's only one teleport on the side of KOO Tigers. This is your opening if you are Fnatic to get back into this game. You need that mid tower down. You need to get a team fight around the dragon and you need to win that team fight. If that doesn't happen, KOO Tigers is going to keep doing this for another 10 minutes and they're going to keep getting more and more kills.
I'm looking at the items though, and Fnatic just isn't there. Every powerful item that they need to complete, Death Cap on Orianna, anything on Hooney, Infinity Edge on Reckless, KOO is ahead of them in every single aspect.
You just don't have a choice.
They cannot 5v5 unless they get a pick early, but KOO is the team getting the picks. Fnatic actually just needs to stall this one out and give away Dragon.
The thing is, by stalling it out for Fnatic, you just put yourself in a situation where you will have to spread out on the map, wave clear in the side lane, and then 5 members from KOO Tigers will dive you in the mid or in the top lane, and they will get their kill or start setting up the Baron. So you just put yourself in a situation now where there is no good play. And that's the worst situation you could be in as a team in League of Legends, because normally you always have, okay, there's one good play, one okay play, and there's a few bad plays. Obviously, we're trying to aim for the good one. Now you're in a situation where everything is bad, maybe okay at the very, very best. And you need to outplay KOO Tigers then.
And you have to give so much credit to KOO Tigers. They were coming in, heralded by many as one of the weaker Korean teams, but Hojin finds a death sentence, and as the support of Gorilla on the hunt is coming out, Huni has arrived from the back line. Dragon's Rage finds 4 Ash Arrow onto Feathervin as well. Gorilla's still running interference. Reckless has got a kill onto Hojin, and Gorilla's Unbreakable Will is quite early. So the bad plays have resulted in a net +1 kill. Defensive flay to get rid of Smeb. Huni's trampled underneath the weight of that power pony. Reckless is in trouble. The shockwave's already been pulled, and Fnatic's last chance, last ditch effort is being strangled away. KOO take 4, the cost of 2.
You can see what Fnatic is trying to do. Again, they're simply saying we have to just try and go for some insanely risky plays. Waiting is going to be almost impossible for them. At least that's what seems to be the call for Fnatic. And obviously they lose the fight.
It's the manifestation of desperation officially.
It is.
Because they are down 3,000 gold, and they had a clean kill onto Hojin with no casualties, yet they persist. The way they come back in this game, if they want to come back in this game, is through several small wins, not one home run. You can't be swinging for the fences on every single pitch, or you will strike out more often than not. So KOO Tigers is taking the reliable good plays, and they're literally punishing Fnatic every time they reach too far.
I think you have to take a step back and just look at KOO. We'll do that in a moment. This is the replay of that fight.
Yeah, Hojin makes a mistake. They do a lot of peeling here, Gorilla and Hojin, just to keep him alive for a little bit longer. And you can see how heavily out of position KOO actually are with their double teleports being down. So that's the window Fnatic has. But the map is only so big. It's going to shrink eventually, and KOO brings their soul inners back into this fight while Fnatic continues to be here. And because of the item differentials in this team fight right now, Fnatic had no chance once Smeb and Kuro arrived.
Yeah, Smeb 2 levels above Huni right now. Insanely fed on this Hecarim. Fnatic is saying again, 5 vs 4, let's try something. It's not the right call. They get punished for it. KOO Tigers, 21 minutes in. It's 5,000 gold ahead. And this is a team who's been playing normally really well in the late game.
Yep.
Did make some mistakes in the last game though, where Fnatic almost managed to get back. Wasn't enough in the end.
Yeah, this is a team who has been down this amount of gold earlier in the game and still beaten Fnatic.
And I asked the question at the beginning of the day, if Fnatic get the lead that KT had from the quarterfinal, will Fnatic close it out?
I said yes back then. I definitely expected more from Fnatic when it came to their shot calling, how to snowball the games.
But all credit to KOO for, again, punishing when the mistakes presented, playing so safe they didn't provide more opportunities for the lead to extend. This is a team that is... You can question some of their calls, but you cannot question their ability to find ways back into the game. They wiggle out of every chokehold they're put into.
Very creative teamwork. You can tell KOO Tigers, really Gorilla picked the team that he wanted to play with. A lot of old members from Najin.
The B team at the beginning of the year,
a lot of players
right?
that had been rejected by other organizations, and they are not even just one game away from the final, a couple fights away from the final.
Wow, Feathervin's already dead. Shockwave didn't even get used. Wild growth on that frontline Gorilla. Unbreakable Will reducing any damage he could take, and KOO just say we'll have that and brute force their way into the mid-inner turrets.
It's the same situation again for KOO Tigers. They push in at least 2 lanes, so they have one guy from Fnatic defending. This time it was Huni with no teleport, and they know, okay, he's gonna catch the wave at tier 2 tower. We walk straight through Fnatic's jungle, and we just dive them 5 members. We have so much engaged. Hecarim, Alistar, Ashe, Lee Sin, like almost all the champions can start the fight for KOO Tigers and get that one pick, and they even spike in this mid game.
Huni's in trouble. The onslaught will throw Smeb far enough to get the kill credit. Reckless is now exhausted. Yellowstar's trying to run interference. There's no box available for zoning. It's a double kill for Smeb, and Kuro gets his 3rd. Fnatic were dancing around the Baron pit, and KOO take their lives.
The mid-game power spike of Hecarim Lulu. There is really no speed equivalent to that combo when you're trying to run away. So even though Reckless was far from the origin point of that battle, he ends up catching the bad end of it.
Rainova and Feathervin standing against KOO. They're in the Baron pit and
Pretty
low.
good shockwave opportunity.
The shockwave is available, but the headbutt will knock Rainova away. Shockwave gets damaged, but nothing more. And KOO Tigers have the tools they need to finish this game out, to clean sweep Fnatic.
Definitely didn't expect that coming into this series. We knew KOO Tigers were great.
This was always going to be the most contested series we've seen.
We all looked at
It could have
Fnatic
gone either way.
as the Western hope, basically, for getting into the final. With Origin facing SK Telecom, nobody expected a whole lot from that match. But this one here, it's been surprising how well KOO Tigers have been able to play when behind, even when ahead outside of those 5 minutes in game 2. And we just gotta give it to them. They really deserve to be so far ahead in this game and already be up 2-0.
What a year for KOO Tigers. Not only were they... Oh, Asher also comes in. Kuro's just going to keep trying to run down Huni. But put together as someone of the B team, Reckless on the hunt. He does not want to get caught out. Smith still got that onslaught.
Fnatic just has to concede so much right now. KOO has been able to play this game, specifically the 1-4, with giant gold deficits. So with a mid-game team composition in the mid-game with a 10,000 gold lead, they are making it look easy.
And really, this game has just been all about KOO Tigers. Picks and bans, something that it feels KOO have had their finger on the button all series long, hell, all tournament long, really, for most of the games. And just showing up on the big stage.
And now we just need KOO to take this wave in the mid lane with the Baron buff. Not sure why he didn't want it before. Fnatic keep looking for that one opening where you catch a guy slightly out of position, but even getting that one kill now won't really result in anything for Fnatic. Smep, he doesn't care about Huni down here at all.
Not at all. 3-level difference. The wild growth comes up. Huni's gonna get shut down. Gorilla finds 2 with the pulverize, and despite the decent shockwave, it will not matter. Reckless is on the retreat. Febiven's got no mana, and Smip just prances into his face. Takes another inhibitor away from Fnatic. 11,000 gold lead. That's gonna grow even more as these minions funnel through. Inhibitor number 2 is going to fall. And KOO Tigers can play this one safe. Not make the same shenanigans that we saw from the previous game. 3 inhibitors down. Almost giving Fnatic an opportunity back into the game.
And I hate to say it, but how similar is this series to the one we saw yesterday? As far as the nature of the games playing out. Origin played SKT really close in game 1.
They're gonna try now, Fnatic.
Well, Rainover's arrived. Huni teleported to the tunnel and gonna try look for a kill. Gonna hold on to his ultimate in that wind slash. Hojin finds the Krugs. He even makes it out alive at the investment of TP, Void Rush. Even on the hunt, I believe.
And then aside from the big mistakes that KOO made at the end of game 2, that was a more one-sided affair. And then game 3 has just been an absolute slaughter. KOO comes in with some different picks, more of their comfort, you would say, with Hojin's Lee Sin. And this game isn't even looking close.
I think KOO Tigers, what they do so well is they make so many of these low-risk plays. They're very consistent in the way they play it out. They don't go for that all-in tower dive that completely backfire very often. Even when they had a bad play in the mid lane, it's because they were so far ahead already and they end up just trading 1-for-1. So very rarely do you see them completely mess it up. Where Fnatic, their playstyle is a lot more high risk, high reward. They will go for these aggressive plays, but against a team who's ready for it, it can backfire very easily. And that's what we have seen in this series.
Well, Death Sentence finds Smeb, but Yellow Stars just booted away. Shockwave lane available in the middle of the lane. Prey not going to step close enough. The Super's now inside the base of Fnatic. KOO need to play with time and play with the Winions. That's all they need. Huni's trying to deal with him on the bottom lane.
Yep, 2 inhibitors down. This time Fnatic doesn't have an Azir who's much better at clearing multiple waves of supers, so even these 2 waves of super minions give KOO a big win to take down inhibitor 3 or the game.
Gorilla's found Reckless and Smep once more. Reckless gets feared towards his Nexus. Febiven's on the retreat, waits for Exhaust to tag before throws down the Shockwave. Huni wants to try clean up, but the Dragon's Rage will send the team away. It is a double kill for Fnatic. They're defending, but it's very little. It's very late, and I don't think it's going to matter.
Rainover jumped a mile behind the rest of the team while they were trying to trace out. Now he's in trouble. They lose the inhibitor, but they do pick up some kills.
Might be able to get Prey.
Let's take a look.
It's Treasure.
Prey Seeker.
Doesn't want to be here. Smip can quite easily pick this kill up. They're gonna go 1-for-1. This is the best friend battle, ladies and gentlemen. Rainover and Smip throws up the flare, but it is Smip that will have the last laugh.
As in life, your best friend just runs away from you.
Smeb probably says only players who can make it to finals get to fight one. Walks away from Huni
Oh, I like that.
and Rainover.
Well, 10,000 gold down, double super minions in every single lane. Just one more time of this last-ditch effort here from Fnatic.
Gorilla makes a pretty nice initiation. I honestly think there's a pretty big overreach by KOO Tigers, so they didn't even finish killing the inhibitor because they're splitting their damage so heavily when they make this engage.
Yeah, whenever we say they're making all these low-risk plays and so on, and they get really far ahead in the game, they go for these fights. We're like, oh, okay, they just gave up a few kills here and there. It's very interesting, though, because Fnatic right now,
there it goes.
are just trying what they can to get back and raid over. Looking for more, didn't end up getting it, but like, Reckless is really far ahead in farm, FlickR is far ahead in farm. They were winning these lanes, but KOO Tigers are winning as a team every single time. It's not individually one guy, maybe outside of Smep, who is being an absolute monster up in his top lane. Him against Marin is going to be such a great battle.
Now Supers are onto the Nexus turrets, and KOO are not putting themselves far enough forward to be at risk yet. Waiting for those next lines to move their way in. And the fire of Fnatic on home soil looking to be extinguished. The KOO Tigers have killed Huni. 4 members of Fnatic left to try wave clear, but the Dragon's Rage knocks him in the air. Shockwave cannot even complete, and the KOO Tigers looking to upset the hometown heroes. KOO will get themselves the ace, will get themselves the base, and will earn themselves a shot at the Summoners Cup in Berlin against SK Telecom.
And you can't help but be happy for the KOO Tigers. Especially Gorilla, who has done so much this year to make this team happen, to coax this team through the season. Finalist in the LCK in the spring, qualified on championship points, and has never really been given their fair shot as a top team. Maybe for a small amount of time in the spring, people were saying it. Now, they have the chance to definitively be the best team in the world if they can take down SKT.
Very few people look at some of these players on this lineup and really praise them, but we get to see what they can do here. Gorilla, fantastic support, Smep in the top lane, going crazy every single game. Obviously, when there's a winner, there's a loser as well.
Crushing defeat for Fnatic.
What great play from KOO. All told, every time they're discounted or underestimated, they show up and surprise absolutely everybody.
But it's been such a weird year for the KOO Tigers. They start out in the spring split by winning everything, being #1.
It's also been a huge year for Fnatic, coming all the way to the semifinals, and the crowd is showing their appreciation.
The final vote has landed, and it was a European eulogy as both EU squads drop at the semi-final stage.
I still think both the EU teams and EU fans can be very proud
They put up
of this tournament.
more of a fight than many were expecting at times, but mistakes that we did not see from the Korean squads of KOO Tigers and SKT is a very large part of why they won those series.
So often been the story. The Western teams trying, having some great players in there, having some good players who can challenge them. But then, as a team, the consistency kind of lacks when it comes to the calls, and that's where it can go wrong against these Korean teams who really will punish you. And that's what we see.
Everybody in the venue is on their feet to show their support here. It feels like a mix between being happy for KOO, but also for Fnatic, who put so much into this game.
We've got to give some props to KOO Tigers, because as you said, Deficio,
So much emotion on stage right now.
difficult end to the tournament for Fnatic.
It's a young team though, Fnatic. A lot of new players being picked up for this season. We know the potential is there for this team. They will be back next year, 100%. They're very, very serious, great coaching. Everything is there for Fnatic to become one of the best teams in the world.
Great support by the fans here. And this is one of the harsh truths of World Championships. 16 teams show up, and everybody loses except for the champions. Everyone actually has a crushing moment. 15 of the 16 teams. Something you have to deal with as a pro.
Great send-off to everybody that came out to the venue from Fnatic. But at the end of the day, they are now eliminated from the World Championship. And unquestionably,
we are, of course, in the round, and it actually appears Fnatic's going around every side of the stage to pay fans their appreciation as well. Crazy.
it is. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's been a roller coaster ride for everybody watching. Western teams are now eliminated at the top 4. We will have our first all-Korean final. KOO Tigers will get another shot at surprising, another shot at proving they are the best team in the world, and you could not ask for a stronger opponent.
It's going to be a really tough battle for KOO Tigers against SK Telecom. In the spring split, SKT didn't even play against FLICKR, and they got 3-0'd. It's tough. The stylistic matchup really favors SKT. If anything, a lot of us were thinking Fnatic style had the best chance of beating SKT. But if you're playing at the level where you're making that many mistakes,
exactly, and that's,
you're not going to make it.
That's really the big thing when you are a team like KOO Tigers who survive on punishing people for their mistakes, and you face SK Telecom, probably the team who makes the least amount of mistakes. It just becomes so difficult for the KOO Tigers to play. But obviously we see Fnatic now walk out of the venue, getting some high fives on the way, and the crowd really loves them.
We're hearing the chants again from the audience. Now they turn their attention to the overall victors, KOO Tigers, 3-0.
Yeah.
After an embarrassing IEM, after falling at the spring finals.
But that was the thing.
LCK qualifying on championship points. They had a great run early in summer, but then also sort of tripped over themselves in late summer. Like, this team, you can never get a read on
like
them.
This.
You can never get a read, ever.
It's really crazy for them, but also it speaks to me how good these guys are when it also comes to kind of removing some bad memories. Potentially, IM Katowice was the last time we saw them internationally. Again, as you said, it went horribly wrong for them, lost to World Elite in a match people probably claim one of the biggest upsets we've seen in a long time. And then you bounce back, and I was talking to Hojin as well, and he was like, we're really good friends. We don't go down if we lose. We can always pick it back up. We trust in each other. They've been using that this season to bounce back.
Well, with the power of love and great League of Legends play, KOO Tigers are going to advance to the championship final. But now we can head over to the interview lounge with a word with one of our newest finalists.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Joined here by Gorilla after 3-0 Fnatic and making it to the finals. First up, congratulations on fantastic League of Legends. And let me ask you about the importance of making it to the final for you. You've been at Worlds before, but now at the beginning of this year, you had to build up this whole new team with ups and downs. How much does it mean to make it to the World Final?
우선 결승 진출을 축하드리고요. 감사합니다. 비록 작년에 이제 월챔에 진출한 적이 있지만 올해는 이제 새로운 신생팀을 꾸려서 여러 가지 고난 끝에 결승전까지 진출하게 됐는데 이번 결승전 진출의 의미가 어떻게 되나요?
사실 제가 이번 연도에 새로운 팀에서 출발을 하면서 되게 큰 걱정도 있었고 큰 기대도 있었는데 그 와중에 저희가 초반에 좀 잘하다가 약간 삐끗한 점도 있고 그랬지만 저희 팀이 다시 이렇게 올라와서 기쁘고요. 사실 저는 이번 연도가 저에게는 좀 큰 경험인 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 제가 손목 부상도 왔었고 약간 좀 힘들 거라 생각을 했는데 이렇게 같이 결승전에 와서 진짜 말할 수 없는 기쁨인 것 같아요.
Okay. So coming to this season, like with this new team, a lot of people were actually looking forward to our team, and some were worried. And we had a very good start in the early season, but also we had a rough hit during the mid-season at IEM. And overall, I had a very rough season. Like I had some arm injuries, and overall, it was just a very tough season for us, for me and my team. I'm just really glad that we made it here together as a team, and I just can't really find the exact words to express how glad I am right now.
I think we can read it off your face a little bit. Let's talk about the series though, because as you said, an up and down year, but 3-0 over Fnatic here. A lot of people thought it might go all the way to 5 games and be quite close. Why do you think it turned out to be 3-0 in your favor?
그 많은 사람들이 이번 오늘 경기가 이제 오전까지 가는 되게 치열한 경기가 될 거라고 예상을 많이 했었는데 어떻게 이렇게 3대 0으로 경기를 이제 끝나게 됐는지 말씀해 주세요.
사실 오늘 탑 게임에서 스맵 선수가 훈이 선수를 첫 경기에 이기면서 거기서 약간 멘탈 차이 때문에 저희가 쉽게 이긴 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 훈이도 잘하는 선수고 스맵도 잘하는 선수인데 스맵 선수가 아마 멘탈이 조금 더 강했고 훈이 선수가 먼저 깨져서 이렇게 게임이 쉽게 이긴 것 같아요.
So I think the most important point happened at the first game when Smeb played well against, won his lane against Huni, and I think Huni and Smeb, they're both really good players, but overall Smeb had a better mentality, stronger mentality than Huni, and that's how the games went to 3-0.
It was 3-0. That means you beat the #1 team from Europe, and you're about to go up against the #1 team from Korea. Before this tournament, thought there was quite a big gap between SKT and the rest of the Korean teams. How do you look at that gap now? How wide is it? How close are you to SKT? How close can you get to winning that cup?
이제 오늘 경기로 유럽의 1위 팀을 이겼지만 이제 다음 결승전 상대는 한국의 1위 팀 SKT1 팀입니다. 이제 이번 대회 시작하기 앞서서 많은 사람들이 SKT1 팀이 다른 한국 팀들보다 좀 실력 차가 있다고 얘기를 많이 했었는데 그럼 고릴라 선수 생각하기에 지금 SKT와 KOO 타이거즈 팀 간의 이제 실력 차가 지금 많이 메꿔졌는지 아니면 좀 그대로 있는 것 같은지 말씀해 주세요.
사실 저희가 SKT를 큰 경기에서 만날 때마다 저희가 좀 많이 쉽게 졌거든요. 근데 이번에 저희가 프나틱을 3대 0으로 이긴 이 기세에서 조금 더 연습을 해서 서로 정보를 다 알고 있는 정도니까 아마 조금 더 저희가 옛날보다는 그래도 SKT 상대로 조금 더 선전을 할 수 있지 않을까 생각하고 있어요.
In the past, whenever we played against SKT at a big stage, we didn't play that well, and the games overall went pretty easily. But I think since we beat Fnatic 3-0 today, we had that momentum to move on. And since both teams know each other so well at this point, I think can put up a better match tomorrow at the finals.
At the finals, still a week away now. You enjoy your victory. Congratulations once again, Gorilla and KOO into the finals. Let's kick it back over to the analyst desk.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the death and celebrate the life of the European teams at the World Championship. They brought 2 good teams and also H2K, and they did very well. They were great teams. They made it all the way to the semifinals, but in the end, the best team won. May they live well in their next life in Season 6, and we hope to see them back again. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Rest in pepperonis.
I too was very sad when this happened, but somewhere during the last game, Monty just gave me a bit of his favorite drink here, and I feel that really helped drown away the pain. So just for you 2 gentlemen, I just want to make sure you get some Kool-Aid as well, because we can really celebrate this fantastic victory of, an all-Korean team, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and it really does fulfill the pattern of Korean teams at the World Championship. Season 2, the first season with Korea, 5 Koreans in the final, Korea loses. Season 3, 5 Koreans in the final, Korea wins. Season 4, 7 Koreans in the final, Korea wins. Season 5, 10 Koreans in the final, Korea wins.
They will win. We know that much is true. All right. Yeah, exactly.
We'll of Koreans must be preserved.
We will get into that finals series in just a bit, but I do want to reflect on this one. Again, a 3-0, but it really was much closer than that, and that's what I want to dive into for these 2 teams. I mean, those first 2 games, Fnatic was in great positions.
It really could have gone either way, right? Those were extraordinarily close games. Fnatic had a strong early game lead in Game 1. They had a fantastic comeback attempt in Game 2, and they really did play well. Sometimes you get 3-0s that are close.
I just think the mental aspect, especially on such a big game, a best of 5 here, the way Fnatic got ahead Game 1, and then the plays that cost them that lead and the manner in which KOO returned kind of set like a damper on the series. And we saw it in the interview as well. Mental aspect is very big in this series, and yeah, Fnatic, they got their foot in the door a little bit Game 2, but it slipped away, and then Game 3 was completely game over, and then fantastic performance overall from KOO.
Well, from Game 1, when they got that 6, 7, 8K gold lead, the second they make that mistake and the game ends, they go back and review, and they're like, maybe we're a bit too aggressive. Like, we need to focus on this. And then Game 2, their aggression dies down. Game 2 goes down and they lose. Game 3, their aggression is even lower. It's like after the first game, when they realized the aggression got the best of them eventually, they just started cutting it out like every single game until it was almost non-existent.
Yeah, that first game to me was the picture of Fnatic that we expected to see. They came in, they went very aggressive very early on. They made all of the proactive moves in the game, built themselves a lead. Unfortunately, we're unable to close that. And it really does, as you mentioned, it comes down to then being able to separate the loss from the mentality that comes with it. Because they needed to approach game 2 with the same similar mindset. We will have a chance to come back, and we will return to the series in just a minute. But right now, Shox is standing by with Fnatic's veteran support.
Thank you very much indeed, standing by here with Yellow Star. Of course, have to start with thanking you for taking the time to talk to us. It can't be easy. I just want to start by having your general thoughts on the entire tournament and the road you traveled after now getting knocked out eventually.
Well, first of all, I have to admit that coming into the season, like no one knew our members, and then it's pretty much the same. Like we have 4 rookies, or however we call them. We had to work and build so much. We had to work so much together, and then who would have believed it? Like they basically win the first split, and then we go undefeated the second split, and then we're here now in the semifinals afterwards. It's pretty much the same story as Origin, you know. So I'm really proud of them, and then there is a lot of pressure on us because since we went undefeated and we performed so well during the season, you might expect us to win the whole thing. I think we had the potential, but not enough experience. We had to control. We have a lot of stuff to work on, and maybe next year.
Well, that's the keyword for me there. The huge potential around your team. Can you maybe tell me how you, of course, as a veteran, has helped the rookies out so much, as you like to call them, how you will help and nurture that potential to make it to next year and maybe again have a shot at going all the way?
Yeah, mainly it's when, you know, we just like to fight all the time, and sometimes we just have to control our emotions. It's not always easy because under pressure, when you're ahead, you kind of have bad habits and then you just keep doing them. But I believe that it takes time to fix them, and then we'll just come back stronger.
Definitely will. Finally, is there anything you want to say to all the fans watching at home and all the fans here?
Yeah. I don't know, it just felt special because it's the first time we play in Europe, and anywhere we go, we have so much support. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who are watching at home or just people coming here to watch us play. It's just amazing, like all the passion you guys have. Just thank you everyone for your support.
And thank you, Yellow Star, class act, what an interview, and what a fantastic run in the World Championships. Thank you so much, and see you next year.
Yeah.
All right, back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Shox. Much deserved support from the audience here. I do want to return to your point during the eulogy, which is that Europe as a region brought 2 teams to the semifinals of Worlds. It was between Europe and Korea, and these are 2 very strong teams, Fnatic especially, that should be celebrated as they exit the tournament.
I mean, absolutely. I would have never expected 2 European teams to be in the semifinals, but with China really underperforming and Origin really getting their act together, they did a great job, and Fnatic definitely deserved to be in that semifinal too. Undefeated season, really a remarkable year for them.
Yeah, and it kind of helped us forget about the 3rd European team, so that was all good. But yeah, fantastic performance overall by both these teams. And I mean, if you ask any of these teams coming to the start of the season, maybe like if we give you the offer here and sign here and you get to the semifinals of Worlds, most of those teams will say like, okay, definitely Origin. Fnatic maybe a little more hungry, but you can't underestimate how big like that performance really is.
I like Yellow Star's comment on experience because I think that's really undervalued right now. Like shot calling is normally built from experience, and a lot of the knowledge in the game isn't something you can pick up quickly. It's something you have to like, you know, trial and error, go through it. So that being, I think, Europe's biggest weakness is experience, means it's only going to be growing for next year. So we're coming next year.
All right.
All right.
I look forward to H2K next year.
Yeah, buddy.
I do think that's a big thing. It's a team of very talented but very young players. They will only become stronger through the next season of play. Now I want to turn our attention back to the winners of today's series, though. KOO moving forward, and one person in particular. There was one person that broke away from the pack and claimed our player of the series honors. That man was KOO's top laner, Smeb. A 7.57 KDA and 31% of his team's damage.
I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. I think his performance tonight was thoroughly dominant. That Riven game that we're seeing right in the first game played so well in these team fights.
And there's a couple intangibles in League of Legends that you can't measure in kill participation, in gold necessarily, in KDA, and that's the pressure you put on the map, the way you play that lane, the fact that you can potentially tilt your opponent by your playstyle, dodging ganks here and there, and the pressure Smeb brought to this series and the mental aspect that brought into KOO versus Fnatic, I think cannot be underestimated either.
And they just didn't have answers for Smeb's champion pool. We saw even in that last game, they tried to blind pick the Riven. They knew they couldn't let him have it again. And yet he plays the reverse matchup that he had in game one and absolutely dominates on that Hecarim. So it was a very impressive individual performance that covered up some of KOO's weaknesses, such as some of the early jungling of Hojin.
Yeah, that's what I like most about Smeb, is because normally you look at these top laners who are doing well, and it's because they have a top lane focused team. This was like Hojin not even going top for the first 10 minutes of the game. The third game, yeah, he like changed his playstyle with Lee Sin, and I like that. But this is Smeb getting an advantage and surviving getting first blooded and still staying relevant in the game with zero jungle pressure, which in my opinion shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be able to outplay those dives like he did. So I'm really happy that that was like possible.
Well, it's time now to pull up the bracket because we now have our 2015 League of Legends finalists. SK Telecom have looked dominant, sweeping through the group stage and the bracket stage straight into the finals with a perfect 12-0 record. Meanwhile, the KOO Tigers came out of the group stage with the number 2 seed from Group A, but fought their way through, first taking down KT Rolster and then Fnatic to secure their spot in Berlin. Of course, at the start of the day, we wanted to know what you wanted to know over on Twitter. First up, at Ari Bambari asks, what does the victor of today's series have to do to beat SKT? They look invincible at the moment. Now we know it's KOO, so gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Yeah, how do you beat the Koreans, Bunty?
I mean, I think that Smeb probably has a wider champion pool from Marin, so if he can abuse some of these matchups that Marin has. We've seen Marin's a great Fiora player, but there's still the Riven question. Marin's not a Riven player, so if Smeb maybe can get some of these good matchups rolling, that could be a way that they could win.
I mean, one of the ways KOO won this matchup was that top lane matchup, but he's going arguably up against the best player at Worlds in Marin. So even if Smeb doesn't lose that matchup but it stays even, then you got to start looking at the rest of the map. And I think Benki does better than Hojin. Yeah. I think that's not a bold statement to make. And then in the mid lane, I think whoever they decide to place, you know.
A quick preview of our finalists there on stage right now around the Summoners Cup, which they will be fighting for next Saturday in Berlin. We've hit a lot on Smeb. You know, on the side of SKT, what are their largest strengths? We've talked about Smeb being a strength for KOO, but largest strength for SKT?
For SKT, man, I feel like they're just really, really well-rounded. And in this one in particular, like, said it a million times, like, they do have FLICKR against KOO in this one. KOO, I think, surprised a lot today and did really well, but this is going to be a FLICKR he has to take on for the next one, and a lot more cohesive team than Fnatic showed today.
Well, next up, we had Freaky97, who asked, do you think this year's SKT team is more dominant than last year's Samsung White?
I mean, on paper so far, being undefeated kind of makes you believe it, but the one crucial matchup there for White was when they played Blue and they dropped the game there, I believe.
Nope.
No? They failed? Did you actually? But I think when the Koreans face off against each other, that's going to decide the matchup. So when SKT plays KOO, that's when we'll know.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too early to say that. It's also important to note that just in my history of casting Samsung White, they had a history of being very cocky when they got up 2-0 in a best of 5, and I think they were a bit more lackadaisical. SK Telecom has been all business so far, so that is, I think, a major difference. But we need to wait for the finals to find out.
I do like the playstyle of SKT. It's like this very, very split push oriented, crisp League of Legends where you got to play a lot on feel. Dodging those ganks, the only really mistakes you see is people moving up to clear minion waves and then getting punished for it. But it's so hard to really appreciate that style unless you start toggling the vision a lot more, because the way SKT plays out these games and get these tremendous leads, they make it look easy, do it very often in full vision of their opponent, but they play around the Fog of War so well, and that's for me is just so impressive.
Now, probably Jat mentioned earlier that a lot of us had considered Fnatic to maybe be the better matchup against a SKT because they would take the fight to them. Well, KOO has shown throughout this tournament that they can play more than one side out. You mentioned in the group stages, they really went after things. In the bracket stages, they started to pull back, just play it safe, wait for the other team to make a mistake. Do you think that this team has enough options in terms of game style and strategy that they could take games off of SKT or even take the win?
Well, I really am kind of impressed by KOO's pick ban. Like, I think that's kind of overlooked a lot of that time by just like how the games are played out. But being able to survive early game is definitely something I think KOO needs to fix. And if they can play like they did in groups, like that's going to be fine. I do think KOO's strength is the pick and ban because when I watch SKT, there's not many like, oh no moments in the pick ban phase where I'm just like, oh my god, SKT got this champion, it's over. Sure, Rise is sick, but it's not like an oh no champion.
We can't forget the Rise. We still haven't finished that discussion, Monty.
But you see KOO get Lulu, and you're like, oh no, like they play Jinx. They have like an awesome Ashe player. Like this kind of sucks. They have this one champion. So I think that has it for KOO right now. And if they can get through the pick ban phase well, I think they can maybe take a game off or two.
And I think KOO just did a great job of drafting tonight. And they've been a team that has a history of good drafts. No Faye, their coach, is very, very good in that regard.
All right, well, both teams we have complimented for their drafting, so that will make for a very interesting pick ban leading into the gameplay itself. Now, we'd like to note that after 4 weeks of the over 2 million pick'em entries from around the world, only one is still 100% correct. Dext COD has called the entire tournament from group stages until today, and in case you're curious, they've picked SK Telecom to take home the top prize. Well, gentlemen, there can only be one, and he's calling for SK Telecom as is, so we'll have to throw that on to the end of the analyst desk predictions when we get there.
I just hope, I mean, some of these group results weren't really predictable, so whatever he had, I hope he shares, man. That was a crazy run.
He's making a good case for himself to take one of your spots next time around.
I mean, Krepa, you have a history, though, of when I pick a Korean team in the playoffs at Worlds, you pick against me. Just pick the Korean team with me next time, okay, buddy?
I can't. In the finals, I will pick a Korean team with you.
Right. Because one day, Monty, he's going to be right. Yeah. He's going to be right. It's going to be so sweet.
He is the Korean killer. He was the last European player to take down a Korean team in a best-of-5 in summer 2012.
And he'll do it again as an analyst one day. All right, well, we'll be back with our coverage of the Ultimate Showdown with Finals Week, which starts off with an all-new primetime league. Tune in for Mic Check, the Penta, and a complete download on the Worlds event. Then on Saturday, it is the main event. Korea's SK Telecom T1 versus the KOO Tigers in a best-of-5 for the Summoners Cup and the World Championship at Berlin's Mercedes-Benz Arena. Now be sure to stick around because in 15 minutes it's Worlds Night where myself, Deficio, and Freak will chat about the day's highlights. Now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, good night, and we'll see you on the final stop on the road to the Summoners Cup.
Advance to Berlin for the chance to battle SKT. Onslaught of Shadow splits everyone from KOO away. 2 for 1. Featherman wants to clean up. It's a triple for Smith. One step closer to an all-Korean final. Smith flashes away from the third block of the broken wings. Huni will find fails the flash. KOO are looking for a rampage. Gorilla jumps forward. He manages to find another as Smeb's running down Feathervin. And KOO Tigers are 2-0 against Fnatic. Gorilla comes forward. The Shockwave finds 4. There's simply not enough ability power. Yellow Star and Rainover like lambs to the slaughter. Hooney's trampled underneath the weight of that power pony. Reckless is in trouble. The Shockwave's already been pulled. KOO will earn themselves a shot at the Summoners Cup in Berlin against SK Telecom.